My name is David Lan. I'm the Artistic Director of the Young Vic Theatre, and we've been working with the Genesis Foundation with great success and pleasure for the last 8 years. First I heard of the Genesis Foundation was through Mel Cooper, who worked for the Genesis Foundation. Mel heard about our plans to start working with young directors at the theatre, and he got interested in what we were doing, and I got extremely interested in the Genesis Foundation because it was a big new move for us to take this particular interest in young directors. It became one of the most important things that this theatre does and has done over the last 10 years. And the Genesis Foundation was tremendously important. It was critical, actually, to me and to us at the theatre in making it possible to do that work.
I think if you have it in the corner, it doesn't make the most of it becomes almost a bit more traversy in its feel, you know what I mean? It doesn't really make the most of...
In 2.5 weeks' time, I'm starting rehearsals on Tennessee Williams's play, The Glass Menagerie, for the main house at the Young Vic. And in a week's time, I have the final design deadline, where I have to, myself and the designer Jeremy Herbert, have to submit our final model to Chris Clay, the production manager at the Young Vic, and David Land, the artistic director, and say, this is how we want to do the show.
In many ways, the work that we do with young directors is the work of the Young Vic, in the sense that what we are here to do is to produce shows, to create work in the theatre for an audience, and we play to a very, very wide audience, put a lot of work into that audience. But what we also put a lot of work into is creating the theatre artists of the future.
I think I'm right in saying that when I first got involved with the Young Vic and when I first met David was around about the same time that the Genesis Directors Programme was created. And so all through my development as a director, I've been supported by the Young Vic, but I've been supported by the Genesis Foundation as well.
One of the new things that we've done, created between the foundation and us, is the idea of having a fellow, a Genesis fellow, supported here. The most important reason that we chose Joe Hill-Gibbins to be the first Genesis fellow is that he's a really good director. I think he has tremendous potential to be one of the leading directors of his generation. You could say he already is that, but I think he's going to be around for a long time doing really remarkable work.
Well, I've always wanted to direct. I went to university and did English literature, but I then ended up going to Mountview afterwards and did a postgraduate diploma in theatre directing. And it was there, whilst I was there, that I heard about the Genesis Network, and the second I left Mountview and I was looking for jobs, I joined the Genesis Network.
The network does many different things. One of the things it does is very simply operate as a network. There is a net of people who talk to each other, and like a net does, support each other in many different ways. In a very simple way, that somebody loses an actor a week before they go into rehearsal. There it is on the net. People saying, you know, anybody got any ideas? Or stage manager, or wanting a bit of money, or needing a place to rehearse, or needing a stage manager, or just looking for plays, or just looking for a job. And that is tremendously important for people who otherwise would feel isolated.
I had no idea about the Genesis Directors Network, and one of the other young directors spoke to me about it and was just like, I think it's something you should really join because it's a resource for directors and it's almost like a support network. And so I wrote a letter to Sue Emmers at the Young Vic, and then I joined it.
Theatre being an art that happens with living people and in 3 dimensions, it's fantastically useful for me to be able to work with Jeremy and think about how to design it in a room with some directors.
And also from a learning point of view, to be able to be part of a prep workshop with a director like Joe and a designer like Jeremy, that's invaluable, just to see how their minds work and to be part of their process. That's really, it's a privilege actually.
Coming, mother.
one of the satisfying things in my role as the Genesis Fellow here is that, you know, when I started off, David was a director looking out for me, and that's now something that I can do with younger directors coming through.
When I had my first meeting with John Straczynski, and the idea I had that if we work in a particular way, there was a reasonable chance that we would produce some really outstanding directors. John said to me, how many, if we work with you over 5 years, how many directors of really outstanding quality do you think you can produce? And I had no idea what the appropriate answer was. You go, well, I don't know what to say here. Should I say 6? Should I say 23? I've no idea. And John said to me, look, if after we work with you, there is one really, really seriously brilliant director that's emerged, that's fine. And I thought, okay, fine. I understand the level of this conversation.
One of the really fascinating parts about working with people like Joe or anyone else in the Genesis Network is that there really is no one way of doing things. There are various principles, I think, undercutting theatre, but on top of that, the different personalities and the different concerns that people have and what they bring to the room, and being exposed to that has just been absolutely fantastic. And that's something I would say is probably unique to the Genesis programme, is that kind of exposure to different people.